Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of the 2009 Doctor Who Easter Special Planet of the Dead, which is the second of the 2008 to 10 Doctor Who specials that served as the send-off for David Tennant's 10th Doctor. The first being the next Doctor, the 2008 Christmas special. So, Planet of the Dead. This episode starts off with a robbery, a museum robbery of this cup of Ethelstan by Lady Christina de Souza, who then has to evade the police by getting on a bus. And hang on a second, am I watching the right TV show? Am I watching the right program? Because this doesn't feel like Doctor Who. This is, well, apart from the music, because it's Murray Gold, but apart from that, and some great directing, it doesn't feel like Doctor Who. This feels like a completely other program. Have I put the right DVD in? Oh no, it is Doctor Who, because David Tennant's here and he's wearing his 10th Doctor costume and he's saying, "I'm the Doctor," and then the Doctor Who theme plays and the titles happen, and yeah, we're watching the right program. It's a bit of a different pre-title scene to what we normally get, as we're set up to our main companion, well, our guest companion of the episode, Lady Christina de Souza, played by Michelle Ryan. Okay, interesting way to start the episode, but this is also important to the plot, as Christine has stolen something that will be important later, the Cap of Ethelstan, as well as how the Doctor realises that she's a thief. As well as also the fact that the gets the police to chase her, as we'll see after the titles, and then getting on a bus is basically just them bumping into each other. That is on the vehicle that leads them into danger in later on in the episode. Well, I say later on in the episode, it's only a minute or two later. So the police obviously know about Lady Christina being the thief. Somehow that's not really explained. I have to also question why the police feel the need to use guns for jewel thieves or couple Athelstan thieves, as some police officers are pointing a gun at what appears to be Christina's accomplice slash getaway driver, and then later they've got some guns to point at the bus. Which, by the way, how does the bus driver not know the police are right behind him? What if he saw the police right at the top of the tunnel? Is he just going to continue going straight through them like nothing's wrong? I would actually like to have seen that, come to mention it. Oh. But yeah, the police obviously know who they're looking for. But yeah, I don't know why the police feel the need to have armed police officers. When UNIT comes around, yeah, they've got guns because it's UNIT. But the police, I'm not actually sure. This is a thief, not a... Well, even if it was a murderer, I wouldn't even say that guns were necessary. And, well, if in the UK, if it was America, it would make sense, actually. But if it was in the UK, they got the guns for a thief. Wouldn't those guns be better used against some other type of criminals? Maybe if it was armed robbery, it would make sense, but Christina's not armed, and I think they know that she's an unarmed thief. Yeah, I'm just questioning the purpose of them having guns in the first place. They want to stop the bus and interrogate the accomplice, fair enough, but in the UK, I don't think they would have needed the guns for those. In America, it makes sense, but in the UK, not so much. If it was an armed robbery, it makes sense, but I think they know their suspect well enough to know that they probably wouldn't need them. Yeah, I was just wondering about that. Anyway, but like I said, the police obviously know who they're looking for somehow, not quite sure, and we got this tenacious detective chasing down Christina. He sort of reminds me of Inspector Zenigata from Lupin the Third, where he's basically hell-bent on catching the criminal or criminals that he's been chasing basically all his life, in a way. Except this guy only has to track down one criminal instead of four, so this guy's actually got it easy compared to Zenigata. So, yeah, anyway, the Doctor gets on board the number 200 bus, a reference to the fact that this is, in fact, Doctor Who's 200th story, considering whether you count Shada or not, and whether you count Trial of a Time Lord as one story or four. But going by the logic that Shada's not being counted, then Trial of a Time Lord's one story, this is Doctor Who's 200th story. You know what that means? It's time to party! Woo! Anyway, so the bus is number 200 in celebration of this. The actual route in London, there isn't a actual 200, I don't think. Also, they go for a tunnel. I can't remember what tunnel. I thought it was Blackwall for the longest time, but after watching this episode, it sounded like it was a fictional tunnel. So I'm not actually sure, because I thought if it was the Blackwall tunnel, they would have gone a super long way round to get to Brixton or Victoria from where they were. I don't even know where they were. And it was somewhere in London. But anyway, the bus ends up on the planet of San Helios, and the Doctor and Christina then have to go out and work. They team up, and they have to go and find the answers to what's gone and happened. I do have to say, I actually really like the supporting cast that were on the bus with them. They don't do an awful lot in the story, but I kind of really enjoy watching them. Angela, Nathan, Barclay, played by Daniel Curiello, who in a few weeks ago on this channel I reviewed the film Get Out, which he was a main star in, and he also goes on to star in Johnny English Reborn and Black Panther in supporting roles. So it's actually quite nice to see him here. And also we got Lou and Carmen, the latter of which is a low-level psychic, whose psychic abilities is enhanced by the alien suns. A bit like Tim Latimer from Human Nature and the Family of Blood. And Carmen is able to hear the voices of the dead on the planet, as well as to be able to tell parts of the future. So anyway, as the Doctor and Christina are looking around this desert planet, San Helios, they discover a pair of Tritovals, which are another alien race that came to San Helios to trade with the planet before it turned into a desert within a year. Okay, a criticism here. The Tritovals. Oh my goodness. The costume and props department were feeling lazy today. They're basically giant flies in boiler suits. This is a monster you would expect to see in the classic series. This is not typical new series design for a good monster, good alien race. Looks like something from the classic series, and even then on a lazy day from the classics, because they usually had quite a bit of imagination with many of their monster designs as well. But when they thought they decided to do insect-like creatures, half of them were lazy, a little bit lazy, but some of them were really, really cool. So, the Tritovals here are basically the lazy classic series typical insect creatures, which is saying a lot. Which means the prop and costume department, this story, were obviously feeling very lazy. If it was fly creatures, it wouldn't be too bad, but they've got boiler suits, for goodness sake. Oh my god. Yeah, this is lazier than some of the classic series monster designs, and they got a bit lazy in some cases. I mean, look at Twin Dilemma's monsters; they were lazy. But yeah, this is Twin Dilemma level lazy in terms of the monster designs. At least the characters, the Tritovals themselves, are likable. There isn't a huge amount of personality, but they're pretty fun to have on screen, and I wouldn't have minded them surviving the episode. Alas, they die. One of them makes sense how they died. The other one, it was just plain unnecessary. They just had to get rid of him. Anyway, so they go to the Tritoval ship, and they soon start to find out what the sandstorm is about, and it turns out to be a swarm of stingray creatures, flying stingray creatures with metal into their exoskeletons, and with a lot of them together, they cause the wormhole to be made with them going around the planet, round and round again, faster and faster as they go. And their next target is Earth. At the same time, Unit has been called in after the bus driver walks through the wormhole and turns into a skeleton. Yeah, this episode's a PG, and yet most of the Whittaker stories, in fact all but two, are 12 rated, and they aren't that much more violent than this story is. In fact, they're pretty similar. Yeah, I don't know why the BBFC feel like most of the Doctor Who stories, about all but two, these days have to be rated 12. They're not all that violent or horrific. Anyway, Unit comes in with Captain Arisa Magumbo from Turn Left, although this time in the our universe version of the character, and scientific advisor. Oh, we haven't had one of those since the 70s or the 80s with the Doctor himself. And it's the new scientific advisor is Malcolm, played by Lee Evans, not to be confused with Malcolm from Day of the Doctor, who's far less interesting. But yeah, Malcolm, played by Lee Evans, is basically a genius and really fun, and a big fanboy of the Doctor. Love the robot reference, by the way. But yeah, together they're trying to work out a way to close the wormhole and try and find what's going on as it continues to get bigger as the stingrays get closer. Eventually, the Doctor works out he has to use some sort of clamps that helped the anti-gravity clamps that helped fly the Tritonfall ship, and use those on the bus. And Christina goes down to get them using her thief abilities. It's around that point where the Doctor realizes she's a thief. But it's also revealed that the Tritonfall ship hit some of the stingrays, and there's some on board. And whilst they evade one of them, another one does eat the two Tritonfalls. One of them, like I said, makes sense. It gets crushed by one of the stingray and eaten, but the other one then just stands there, tries to shoot it, fails, and then gets eaten unnecessarily. That's just mean. Also, how did the stingrays turn the planet into sand if they ate it? I'm not quite sure how that happened, unless it was their waste, which the Tritonfalls had come to San Helios for their waste. They feed from what's left behind from people's behind. So I'm wondering if the sand, the stingrays waste. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so the Doctor and Christina then have to get the 200 back. They used anti-gravity clamps to fly the 200 after all the petrol's been used up when the other characters are trying to get it to move. And they fly back through the wormhole. So the 3 stingrays do follow, but the other stingray, the wormhole's closed just in time by Malcolm before the others get through. It's a little bit of buttony press to stop the wormhole, but it makes a bit of sense. And Unit shoots down the other 3 stingrays. Okay, again, okay, the climax here is just shooting down the monsters to stop and pressing some buttons to save the day. But I think it's handled a little bit better than when screaming to death with the Cyber King. I think it's handled a bit better there. And there's a little bit more tension than there was in Journey's End with the button pressing. And it's not played as an anticlimax. It actually works really well. So we've got a pretty good story here, pretty enjoyable. I'll get to the ending in a bit, but characters first. Christina de Souza. It's kind of a mixed opinion on her. The character is interesting, but she's also she's a bit too sassy for her own good, which leads her into bitchy territory and slightly annoying and obnoxious in some places. But she's pretty cool in other places. If this was the first episode of what could have been a 5th series under Russell T Davies and David Tennant before handing over to Stephen Moffat for Series 6, starting in 2010, if we got a series every year, basically, then I think Christina could have become a full-time companion for what would have been Russell T Davies and David Tennant's Series 5. And I think over the course of what that suggestive Series 5, the one I'm not proposing, saying what could have been. The what could have been Series 5 with David Tennant with Russell T Davies as the head showrunner, not the version with Stephen Moffat, if David Tennant wanted to carry on. But a Series 5 under Russell T Davies and David Tennant. If there was one, I think Christina would have gone down a similar arc as Donna or Rose, where she would have become a better person over time, perhaps whilst travelling with the Doctor. Who knows? But as she's a one-off character for this story, she's a little obnoxious and a little tries to be feisty and sassy, but ends up being a bit bitchy in places, which doesn't help in the fact that we're supposed to be trying to like this character and maybe wanting her to get away with her crimes at the end, or wanting to escape the police at the end. But maybe it's a bit difficult for some people because of this obnoxious behaviour. That being said, she's a decent companion for this one story, and even if we don't see the character change and grow over a series like Donna or Rose, she's still a pretty good companion for this one episode. Okay, far more enjoyable is Malcolm, played by Lee Evans, who is he's a really great supporting character, and Captain Mogumbo is also really great, just like in Turn Left. And like I said, I really enjoyed the supporting characters enough for them to get back to Earth alive, and there's some pretty cool moments where they have almost a bit of an argument, Midnight style, but then the Doctor makes them realise what they'll be going home to when he tries to get them back home. That's a really good bit as well. It's a shame we didn't get a huge amount with these characters, but it's still pretty fun to have them around. And Carmen is proven to be, at least we have to have Carmen, because she's important for the very end, when she gives the Doctor the ominous warning about something returning through the dark. The Doctor's song is ending, a reference to Planet of the Ood, and someone knocking 4 times. We had to wait nearly 9 months until all of this was resolved with the End of Time Part 2. Ooh, Russell T Davies, you cheeky bastard. Anyway, at the end, the Doctor and company return home on the bus, and the Doctor meets up with Malcolm and Magumbo, and Inspector Zenigata, the inspector from this story, tries to arrest Christina after the Doctor turns her offer to travel with him down, because she wants to travel with him after all that they talked about, but he doesn't want her traveling with him because he would be afraid of losing people like he had with Rose and Donna. Although, as we'll see in the End of Time Part 1 and in the 11th Hour, he regrets, not necessarily regrets not taking Christina on specifically, but he regrets travelling alone, although expanded media comics and, certainly the Doctor magazine comic strips, and probably also the Titan comics if most of their stories are set between Series 4 and the End of Time. Would still have the Doctor and Doctor Who Adventures, which I was reading at the time. They'd still have quite a few companions traveling with them, with the 10th Doctor throughout his life. Then again, those ones are just acting as typical Doctor Who stories, even the ones that come out after the events of this, after these stories came out. But even think about that, the Doctor just travels with people as per usual in comics and maybe books and possibly audios in the not too distant future, perhaps. And yet he's not willing to let Christina on board. Maybe he does have standards after all. Maybe she didn't quite meet the match. She's better than Adam Mitchell, but still, maybe she didn't quite meet the quota. But he does still let her help. It still helps her escape from the police at the very end, and she takes off in the number 200 bus and goes off to have a couple of ventures that she makes a couple appearances in the comics and the audios, including her own spin-off series in the latter. I think the reason that the fact that the Doctor really didn't take her is that the fact that there was not going to be he wasn't going to have a proper final series. He was only going to have the last couple of specials. So her becoming a full-time companion probably wouldn't have been a thing, especially as it was rumored she would be the 11th Doctor's companion, but that ended up not being the case. In fact, a few months after this episode aired, Karen Gillan from Fires of Pompeii was confirmed to be playing the 11th Doctor's companion, Amy Pond, a character we'll be getting to in a few episodes' time. But yeah, anyway, so Planet of the Dead, I think this is a really good episode. I think it's fun, enjoyable, it's got some entertaining moments. I think there is a little bit of I think it could have been handled a little bit better. I think Christina's character could have improved throughout the story, especially if she wasn't going to become a main character in the series. But then again, as a one-off character, maybe they didn't feel like they needed to give a huge amount of growth to this single character. I guess the audio spin-off will have to do that. I also think the supporting characters, as much as I really liked them, could have done a little bit more in the story, but they were still really good and really enjoyable, as were Malcolm and Magumbo. They were great, and I really liked the direction and the cinematography and some great shots and effects. It looks really great, and the fact that they went to Dubai to film the United Arab Emirates is really, really great. They went on location, and it looks amazing. And also the fact that they used the fact that their bus prop got damaged in the containment ships to the UAE. They wrote that into the script, and it makes sense in the dialogue and sort of makes sense in the episode as well. So that's really well put together, and just some really great stuff in this episode. A few niggles, like I think Christina's character could have been improved throughout the episode. The Tritivores are basically your bog standard Lazy Day classic series monsters, and when quite a few classic series monster designs actually look better than this, then we've had a lazy day at the props and costume department this time round. But I still think this is still a really good episode. Not perfect, but I still think it's a fun, enjoyable one and pretty entertaining to watch. And it's a good Easter special. They have Easter mentioned at the start, but doesn't stick around much throughout the episode, like Christmas does in the Christmas specials. Then again, I think the next Doctor had a little bit less Christmas in its episode than the previous 3 Christmas specials, as will the End of Time Parts 1 and 2. With Part 2 also having a New Year nod. For the Moffat ones, they go overboard with Christmasness in the specials up until The Husband's River Song, where it's only a brief mention, and the same in The Return of Dr. Mysterio, and also New Year's Day works into resolution really well. So, at the end of the day, I will be giving Planet of the Dead I was debating whether to give it a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I've decided to give it a 7 because of because I think Christina's character could have been developed a bit more, and the Triton's could have been a bit better. But nevertheless, I still think it's a pretty good story. So I'll be giving Planet of the Dead a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I thought it was fun, enjoyable, and a pretty good story, and pretty nicely done. It's just an enjoyable adventure. Just sit down and watch it. Maybe it's a good Easter episode, because I don't think there's many other episodes that really touch Easter. Most of the series openers, or in Series 7's case, the mid-series opener, started around Easter. Series 1, Series 2, apparently Series 3 and 4 didn't, for some reason. I think Series 3 may have been because it was pushed back 2 weeks. But Series 1, 2, 5, 6 Part 1, 7 Part 2, and 10 have all started around Easter weekend. Usually on the Saturday, like this special was. The special was broadcast on the Easter Saturday, so that's pretty cool. But none of them really have Easter into them. In fact, the pilot, the Series 10 opener, has a scene set at Christmas again. And I think the only other Easter mention in the show, to my knowledge, is the Doctor's Happy Easter slate at Santa in Last Christmas. But that's really about it. As the Doctor says, he doesn't really do Easter that much. You can never really find it in this episode. But it'd be nice to have another Easter special again. I thought that's what Revolution of the Daleks, the Series 12 special, might be. It might be an Easter special, but actually it's going to be a festive special. Oh, well, never mind. We'll get something at Christmas, New Year again, at least. But yeah, it'd be nice to do an Easter special at some point. We'll have another series start around Easter again. Again, we thought that might happen with Series 12, but thankfully that was New Year's Day. But it'd still be nice to have another Easter set episode again, and another episode released around Easter, even if it's whether it's the start of a series or end of a series even, or if it's a special or whatnot. Well, never mind, another time perhaps. Anyway, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching this review. Next time, I will be taking a look at the third to last David Tennant special and the penultimate 10th Doctor story, The Waters of Mars. I'll also be taking a quick look at the Tonight's the Night Minnesota special before that, and then after that, I'll be taking a look at Dreamland before we get to the final two 10th Doctor specials, The End of Time, which is sort of set up around here. And it was also a month after this episode aired that it was announced that the Master would be returning. So looking forward to that. And then shortly after that episode was filmed, Series 5 went into production. So we've got a lot to look forward to. Even though if 2009 only had 3 episodes of Doctor Who, we've still got plenty to look forward to. Well, 4 episodes if you count Dreamland, plus some one Minnesota. 2009 wasn't actually that empty, to be honest, because you also got Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures. And 1 episode of K9, I think. But yeah, compared to 2016 and 2019, it was a bit more busy than those 2 years. But despite only 3 episodes of Doctor Who in 2019, plus Dreamland and Tonight's the Night, still plenty to look forward to. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.